So in the case of, say, a busy working mum, what do you think would be a good time to update your Facebook page?
11 or 4,
yeah,
3 kids, 2. 1 or 2
2,
or
2?
11 o'clock.
Well, there's all good times. Apparently, one of the best times to reach is about 9:30 at night. Yeah, because this is the moment when, because mums tend to be much more efficient at the workplace than anyone else. They get their work done quickly, go home. Of course, they still have to do all the work, and then it's maybe 9 or 10 o'clock before they finally have put all their kids to sleep and everything else, and then they might have some time to kind of fool around online. I don't mean that in a bad way. And even then, the amount of time that they have is very limited, because these are a busy working mum. She doesn't have time like some of us to kind of just spend hours and hours on Facebook. She has other responsibilities. So and that time she's spending on Facebook, she'd much rather be catching up with her friends and trading pictures of her sons and daughters than she is going to be negotiating or playing around with a brand. So all of these things really matter in terms of getting people just at the right time. And for office workers, it could be 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. So there's all of these factors to consider. So in order to improve the edge rank, there's just 5 tips that I would put here. Pretty standard stuff, but it's amazing how few brands actually understand the importance of this. And the first is about encouraging interaction, using media creatively, encouraging tagging, encouraging actions, and posting regularly. So it's okay to, the first one, in the sort of encouraging interaction, I think that too often brands try to kind of communicate in kind of a one way. And I was mentioning before the difference between being kind of like a communicator and a marketer. Some of the conversations I have with marketers is that they just want to drive people to the shop. They just, there's a sale on, they're trying to make people buy. Whereas as a communicator, we're thinking that that's not really what we want to achieve. We want to engage and we want to interact. So ways that you can do that, for example, just asking a question. And so it's amazing how few brands actually use this opportunity to ask a question when you have the perfect platform to really engage. Using media creatively. So if video is popular, there's lots of different ways you can use video. I think, again, some people think that this needs to be a kind of a Steven Spielberg kind production, or it needs to be a TV commercial. Maybe it's not really the right way, but brands have an opportunity, I think, to really produce amazing, wonderful content, and it's kind of like maybe in the past, when it was in the Renaissance, when it was churches were the kind of the vanguard of artists. Now we're moving to an area where brands have the money and the power to be able to be the vanguard of a new breed of artists and content creators. And you're seeing big brands like the beer brand Grolsch. I'm sure some people here are familiar with Grolsch. University students, no doubt you are, is basically shifting all of their advertising dollars into content, and this year is making a film, like a Steven Spielberg type film, and there's this massive trend towards creating content in new and different ways, including video. Encourage tagging, encouraging actions. I remember that when tagging first became popular, Mercedes-Benz, every time they'd post a new picture, they'd encourage people to tag themselves on the car, and it was just a great and simple way of doing it. Of course, it can't work anymore, because if you log in from a different country, has anyone ever logged in from a different country? And sometimes it tells you to name the people, your friends who are in these pictures, and you get this picture of a Mercedes-Benz, and it would say which ones are your friends, and you're like, no idea. And encouraging actions and just posting regularly. And again, that's about regularly according to what your audience thinks is okay. So a brand like Adidas may post 2 or 3 times a day, but a lot of other brands may think that that's overkill. Maybe just once a day, and maybe just weekdays. Again, it depends on your audience. Advertising. Again, another useful tool within Facebook. I'm sure you're aware. We worked on a campaign earlier last year, which was for a brand called IBM. I'm sure you've heard of it. And it was actually a tour of 24 universities all over Europe. And there's a big truck which was it was called Smarter Planet Comes to You, and it was basically a communications device aimed at university students who may consider working in a company like IBM. So Smarter Planet Comes to You. This truck actually went from university to university to university all over Europe. And one tool we were able to use effectively was advertising, because of how targeted it could be and how cost effective it could be, even just by using a few words. So in this case, we knew that if we were going to be arriving at whatever university we went to, Prague University or something like that, we knew that we could target people between a certain age, maybe with certain keywords. Many people indicate which university they're at. So that ability to kind of target people a few days before the truck arrived and say, and communicate to them that IBM Smarter Planet comes to you, that can be really effective. So it's a very useful tool, and I think that, again, as there's so many pages and it's so hard to get noticed, we underestimate the importance and value in spending a little bit of money on just getting noticed, and Facebook advertising can be quite effective. Next, I want to talk about content and conversation. As I was saying, the importance of knowing the right kind of content for your target audience. So if we use the example of the busy working mum again, I have seen brands have challenges for busy working mums, where it's been like, create the all-time best TV commercial for Dove, for example. The winning TV commercial is going to be broadcast, during the Oscars, something like this. So they're seriously asking someone who works 9 to 5 really busily, and then is in traffic, then has to look after a family, to make a TV commercial. There's a possibility she's doesn't know how to use a video camera in the first place, and so it immediately just begin to exclude people. And then the time factor, and in the end, this campaign, which was a real campaign, had a very low participation, even though the reward was so great. And the winner did eventually have their ad played on during the Oscars, and it wasn't particularly good. But again, it's about knowing what is the right content. Maybe a better way to do it would be something short and simple, where she could quickly add her kids' pictures to a photo and share it with her friends and get it over and done within a couple of minutes, and making it simple. So some of the brands we looked at do content in a really interesting way. Obviously, Burberry has a lot of great content to work with, because it's a highly visual brand. They have all these great things like runway shows, etc. This is really cool. This is only a couple of days ago that this happened. I think maybe on Thursday or Friday, and just within a couple of days, they're able to turn around behind the scenes, look at a fashion show in Milan, and it's made purely for the Facebook audience. It's a really great way of using their content and bringing their target audience behind the scenes, so we get that kind of feeling of getting to see something that normally just these people in the front row would get to see. In fact, there's a company the company that made this is moving towards doing entirely digital virtual runway shows, so that in the future, wherever you are in the world, you'd be able to kind of have a front row view of any of these shows. But more than that, Burberry is using developing other video that's kind of purely for its Facebook page, and in this case, I don't know if we have volume. It's not very loud. I mean, in this case, they just make a video to celebrate the fact that they've got 10 million fans. No, this is virtual. The one you're talking about in Beijing, which was done by Ogilvy, was actually a kind of like a hologram-ish fashion show, which is really good. But this content is made purely for the Facebook page. Or in this case here, where you may not be able to hear it as well, even just getting people within the organization. So this is the creative director of Burberry, to make a personal message just for the Facebook fans. So probably just had to pull him out for a couple of seconds, say a couple of words, bang, you've got a video. Not particularly hi-fi quality, but again, it's a really great way of using content and engaging with your audience.